So, Jonathan, from your point of view at the ADL, what are you hearing? I mean, you've brought us a great look at the Jewish experience since October 7th, but right now, in the midst of these protests, what is it like to be a Jewish student on the campus of not just Columbia, but University of Texas? There are a whole bunch of schools.
It's the right question, Willie. You know, I was at UCLA on Sunday. I was at USC on Friday talking to Jewish students. I was at Columbia last week. And let me tell you, I don't know exactly what Eugene saw at GW in terms of these tents, but I've talked to students from all these universities, and they don't feel afraid. They are with good reason. Right? And I mean, as mentioned in the opening here, you had someone with a hatchet at University of Utah. You had students with hammers who broke into the building at Columbia last night. You had someone with a sword at UCLA on Sunday. This isn't normal. People showing up fully concealing their faces like they're ISIS fighters, that isn't normal. And I've heard from kids again and again and again. They are leaving campus. They are moving out of their dorms because they are worried. At Columbia, of course, President Shafiq, she had to close classes. I don't know if people realize this. Classes are over at Columbia. They all went remote because the administration was so afraid of these people. I see these videos. I see these images of mass protesters breaking into buildings, barricading them with furniture. And look, I'm reminded of January the 6th. That's what this looks like to me. I mean, we talk at ADL about right-wing extremists, about masked Proud Boys showing up at school board meetings, about Oath Keepers wearing masks. I look at this, and this is what I see. And let's be clear about one thing. The students who are doing this, the groups behind it, SJP, Palestinian Youth Movement, their response to President Shafiq's offer last night was, Columbia will burn. I mean, these students, we shouldn't treat them like children when they're hardened activists.
We've given you all these outlets, Jonathan. We've given you places to have these conversations, which is what college is supposed to be. You don't have to pick a side, just listen to the debate.
Totally.
And but I mean, do you think any of the people in that building at Columbia right now actually want to have that conversation?
Look, President Shafiq needs to, deliver consequences, not make concessions. Chancellor Diermeyer at Vandy is an example of just a leader with moral clarity. That's your alma mater. My alma mater is Northwestern. President Michael Schill actually gave in to the protesters yesterday at Northwestern, inexplicably, literally making a series of concessions to them after they did the same thing. And I think we need to keep in mind, these demonstrators are ruining it for everyone. They are holding hostage kids' graduation, commencements, just the final exams period. So it's not just a Jewish problem, it's everyone's problem.
And Jonathan, Jonathan, these kids that are going to miss their college graduation because of these people that are occupying buildings and making the campus unsafe were the same ones that missed their high school graduations because of COVID. Again, the selfishness, it's extraordinary that they have to shut down campuses when in fact there are ways for them to get their message across.
Of course there are. And keep in mind the numbers. Columbia has 30,000 students. You know how many are in this encampment, Joe? It's like 200. So we're talking about 0.7%. Same kind of numbers at Northwestern or all these schools. This is a fringe between literally like 0.6 and 1% of all of the students. And I would say one other point that's really important. Not all Jews look like me. There are plenty of Jews from the Middle East at USC on Friday. I heard from an Iranian Jewish student whose parents fled the Islamic Revolution, who's basically been told, you can't be part of the Middle East North African group because you're Jewish. He is more from the Middle East than many, if not most, of these people. He grew up hearing Farsi in his home as his first language. But you know what? To these kids, because he's Jewish, he's not part of the crowd. That is racism, plain and simple. And so, look, much like you were talking about Hamas earlier, and I'm sure Richard will talk about it in a bit, Israel keeps offering them concessions, making offers on hostages, and they refuse. And these demonstrators, these activists, They get offered concessions by the universities. And look at what's happening at Columbia right there. They simply refuse to accept because it seems like their goal isn't to come to some conclusion. It's about what's better for the Palestinians. It's just to reject Israel, to reject their Jewish peers. Again, that's racism, and it's wrong.
Jonathan Greenblatt, to close, I just want to start where we began, which is on the campus of Columbia University. You have students, you have outside agitators, and you have a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. So within the realm of that, what should Columbia do? If you could tell them right now how to handle this, what's the solution? I would say President Shafiq. Listen to the people around you, not to the radical fringe. President Shafiq, number one, none of us support the use of excessive force, but coordinate with law enforcement and get those protesters out of those buildings and retake the campus for all your students once and for all, number one. Number two, no concessions to terrorists. These kids are telling you they, quote, want to burn Columbia down, like Chancellor Dearmeyer, who Willie mentioned before. Suspend and expel the kids who are trying to destroy the institution. And number three, President Shafiq, no masking on campus. Kids who conceal their identities, as Jonathan said, many of them are outside agitators. They're going in there and they're destroying Columbia University for the, to the detriment of everyone. Your Jewish students need you. All your students need you. The broader Columbia community needs you. So President Shafiq, again, get in the law enforcement, consequences, not concessions, and no more masking, whether it's KKK or Proud Boys or SJP.
CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan, thanks for being here this morning. Thanks.